the Warriors, I mean, even with a loss like this, those veteran guys have they know what this is all about. This isn't going to stop them from playing a game 6 that maybe most people are expecting from the Warriors, especially going back to San Francisco.
It was an embarrassing loss last night, but it's no surprise for the Warriors to be in this position. Remember, and we're going to see what Steve Kerr said about the game against Memphis in 2022, the year that we were champion. There's a lot in this season which is remind us when we were champion in 2022, so that's great. There are two good outcomes out of this loss last night, right? We're going to talk here about Moses Moody. We're going to talk about the scenario where the Warriors is and the fact that we have veterans on the team, right? So everyone believes, you saw the media, the interviews, everyone still believes that the Warriors can beat the Houston Rockets now that they're back to San Francisco, but they dodge a massive bullet because the Timberwolves won last night. They eliminated the Lakers, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic. But now they're going to have an extra day of rest. One of the main reasons the Warriors suffered last night, I think, from the start of the game was the fact that they are a more athletic team. They are younger. So this one day break only for the game from the previous game to this one, it was obviously it was more important for the Warriors to have more time than it made a difference for the Rockets. They came with all the energy. They were in an elimination game, which always makes a difference. They took the game more serious, and that's something that the Warriors needs to do. So let's talk. Let's see what Steve Kerr said, what Jim Butler said about the game, Stephen Curry, and then we're gonna see what the Warriors needs to do on Game 6 to close the series and move forward to the semifinals.
For us, we understand how to negate that going into Game 6 and come out with a better effort in that first 6 minutes to set the tone our way.
We're fine. Our confidence isn't going to waver any. We're going to start out better. We're going to play a better overall game because we know how good of a team we are as a unit. We know how good our players are as individuals. So we just got to, as starters, we got to kick us off better, which we know that we will do. We'll be fine.
You notice that Butler said, and Stephen as well, is the start of the game, right? If you look at all 5 games so far, the way that either of the teams started and the falls in the beginning of the game, they made a difference for the entire 4 quarters of each game, right? So yesterday, the Warriors started with those 3 falls. With 4 minutes, the Houston Rockets were already in the line. So that impacts a lot the game. That allowed the Houston Rockets to explore that advantage, the athleticism, and run towards the Warriors defense a lot more often because they knew that everything and the referees, which we have mentioned here, and it's a lot to complain about, but it favored them, right? And then you dig yourself in a hole of 31 points. It's almost impossible to come back. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. And again, we are a team which is good and bad, right? We have the veterans, we are the more experiencing, we have guys that are champions, we have guys that have been in the finals, so we know the path. And then it's a balance that they start doing a decision of like, should I risk and try to catch up on this game or just let it go and rest and then focus on the next one, right? So I think the Warriors, they almost came back with the bench, and that's one of the highlights of the game for the Warriors. Moses Moody actually, he made a point, right? Should he get more minutes? We are seeing a lot of Buddy Hield. He actually took the starting position from Moody in this playoff series, but now he scored 25 points last night in 25 minutes. So should we see more of Moody? Like, he was having a shooting slump, but can we count on him? Because that's an X factor for the Warriors, right? Another night we saw Brandon Porzingis. Then we saw a little bit of Buddy Hield, then Moses Moody. We don't have that reliable third scorer beyond Stephen Curry and Jim Butler that we can count every single night. So we need some of those guys at least to show up, and then he's one more possibility, right? So he might, I wouldn't be surprised if for Game 6 we see more of Moses Moody back to the lineup. Maybe not the starting 5, but more minutes at least playing, right? So look what Steve Kerr said about this game related with 2022, which reminds a lot, right? Puts the Warriors in the same spot. And that's another great thing because we know how it's to be here. Again, we are very experienced team, so they shouldn't feel the pressure of going to this game 6, right? We still have 2 games to close. We just need to win one.
Steve, one of the things with such an experienced team is there's a comp for almost everything. And I'm wondering if this situation reminds you at all of the game 5 in Memphis,
Yeah.
and which you, of course, missed, but similar.
Yeah,
deal?
similar vibe, down 30 in the first half. I think in Memphis we might have been down 40 or 50 even. I don't remember exactly, but similar vibe, young team, on their home floor trying to stay alive. They came out and threw haymakers at us. They made every shot in the first quarter. So we got what we deserved.
And it's true as well, what he said. The Rockets got a little bit lucky, right? In the beginning of the game, everything was falling for Dan. And it wasn't necessarily like weak on our defense. We did have some very slop turnovers, and that's also on Curry as well. I think sometimes he's trying to prove a point, which we know he's a superstar and he will do it and sometimes work. But I felt like some moments at last night's game, we needed a little bit more to slow down the game and try to bring things together, right? And then he's trying to maybe score really quick or dribble a guy more than needed. Like, so he said that in his interview here as well. I didn't bring to this video, but you can check his post-game interview. He mentioned that it's also on him to balance more how to get Jim Butler involved on the ball and the other guys as well, instead of himself trying to make the whole game, which I think is exactly what the Rockets want, right? They are doubling on Stephen Curry all the time. They're daring other guys to shoot. That's why we need this balance, and we need the rest of the team to show up as well, right? When they have open shots, we cannot miss those. The Rockets were not missing those last night. So we need to do those as well. If you walk through the series so far, the Warriors just didn't have more advantage because they keep missing open shots, sometimes even like layups or a 3-point. So it makes a lot of difference, and we need to count that or more. You know that Alperen Sengun will show up every game. We need to close on Jalen Green to not let him go. Amin Thompson for me was like outlier last night. He's not really a super scorer, but he had a game last night. And VanVleet, if you let, he will shoot and he will take his part of the game. So we need to make sure that we know where we need to work, right? Dillon Brooks is a defensive guy who actually had improved a lot on his mid-range shoot, but he's not the guy that's going to hurt us that much or shooting, right? It's more the guy that is there for the defensive, and we know all the ins and outs and the troubles with Stephen Curry and trying to hurt guys. I think he's one of the most dirty players in the league, but he's on the defensive side. So the Warriors know the path. And this is what Kendrick Perks said about what we need to do to actually win Game 6.
They got to go back to the plan that they had in the second half of Game 4, right, for Steph Curry. You got to get him off the ball, right? Get coming for pin downs. Get him coming off the floppy action. Get early looks for him running in transition for transition threes. Trying to go high pick and roll with him in the ball, with the ball in his hands, is not going to work against this Rockets defense because the bigs are too good in Alfred Sengun and Steven Adams in the pick and roll. And then you have the athletic wings and Thompson, Tari Eason, and Dillon Brooks that could defend him. If they go back to what they did in the second half of Game 4, having Steph off the ball, letting Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler initiate the offense, the Golden State Warriors are going to be just fine, and we're going to see Steph Curry put on one of those shows like we're accustomed to seeing.
And I think they will. I think Steve Kerr is smart. He will see what didn't work in this game. Obviously, it has been a chess game, right? Ime Udoka is a really good coach as well. The Rockets are a really good defensive team. There's a reason they were the second seed, but I do think the Warriors are still a better team. They have more skills, and we can make it. We have the 2 superstars in this series, and I think if they play and they focus and they locked in for Game 6, we will close. If we go to Game 7, it's going to be a lot of pressure and then start turning the table for me. So it's really important that we close on Game 6 playing at home. That otherwise, it does get really difficult to do because it's going to be a massive pressure there. Not impossible anyway. We know when you have Stephen Curry, you can count on everything. He can explode in a game. And that's what we want to see. And Perk said, right, like we can't rely just on him because it makes it too easy for the defense. Has been the whole season like that. Jim Butler came and things start changing, and we need to do the same in this playoff series. Get Curry out of the ball until at least other guys get going. And then the defense, the Houston Rocket defense is going to be a little bit lost on what they do. Because right now, what was happening yesterday, no one has anything going on. And then was Curry trying to pull out the hat and make things happen. And it just get too easy. So that's key. And more important, don't make stupid, simple falls in the beginning of the game. That has been in game 1. Şengün got out in the beginning with 2 fouls. We had Brooks that lost a lot of minutes in the game 3 or 4, if I don't recall well right now. And last night was the worst. They had a lot of fouls in the beginning. Stephen Curry had to sit, and that was a problem. So we need to put pressure on defense without doing this nonsense falls on the Houston Rockets. And that's how we're going to win game 6. We see each other tomorrow. That's going to be game 6. I'm pretty confident the Warriors can close. I hope you have a great day.